Hi, my name is Dr. Gianella Farrugia. I'm from SMM Advocates, SMM Group. We do, a vast, we are lawyers, so we deal with all areas of law. My specialty is corporate law, maritime law, and also immigration law. So I deal with relocation on a daily basis. And this is actually something which I feel would be useful to the viewers, together with Viviana Premazzi, and I hope it is of good use to you.
Great. My name is Viviana Premazzi from Global Mindset Development. We do intercultural management and cultural relocation services for individuals and companies. So we help them and support them from the cultural perspective before relocating and orientation to the new country, and then we support them to adjust and be ready to enjoy their life in the new country and in the new culture.
Okay, so let's say from my point of view, one of the biggest challenges is visas. So, individuals, there are those which have more restrictions than others. For instance, because they are, let's say, considered third country nationals, which are not part of the EU. So that is one thing which usually is an obstacle, because obviously it delays one's plans. It depends, their move depends on when the visa is issued at the end of the day, and if it is accepted. Another issue is when an individual actually makes his way to Malta and he has to comply with the visa restrictions, which are usually the days which are on the visa. So one challenge is overstaying, let's say, overstaying the period of the visa. And something that leads to that is registration with Identity Malta, which is the government authority regulating residence permits in Malta. One other issue, challenge can be said, is driving. When someone, let's say, moves to Malta, usually they are allowed to use their driving license for 6 months, as long as their driving license is recognized. Then they have to either do another test, or if it's an EU issued driving license, they have to exchange. So those are basically what comes to mind, the three things that come to mind.
Interesting. From a cultural perspective, I would say expectations, and the fact that expectation can generate frustrations, because you can have like high expectations, or even like your expectation can, if you're not prepared culturally to what you will find, there is a risk of then like being frustrated and disappointed. And also we all know that in all the relocation process, there are 4 phases, they're called. So the first is honeymoon. So if you want to move and maybe you have already been to Malta in this case, and you like the island, there will be a first phase that is the honeymoon. So you love everything, you love the people, you love the place. But then for sure there will be some small things that require you to adapt, and that can generate frustration. And so the more you set your expectation before, and the more you get to know the country, the culture, and what can be the challenges in advance, the more you can be prepared to face them.
Okay, let's start with personal. As you mentioned before, let's say what I would suggest is that one plans ahead. So again, he or she plans that there are particular time frames you know, which one has to, you know, go through and wait. So that is one. Obviously, relocating is not an easy thing to do, because you are literally moving your life from one place to another. Let's say also, on a personal level, be prepared for the roads in Malta. Okay, in Malta, we have certain roads which aren't really in a state which you usually find in mainland Europe, and the driving. So yeah, I would say that is something which you would have to be prepared, because some people would at first be shocked and surprised by the way we drive. It's an island mentality. So with regards to business, let's say it depends. You would definitely be prepared to find an attractive tax regime, definitely. However, one cannot be prepared not to pay tax at all, definitely, because it is an EU jurisdiction. So obviously we have to comply with EU laws and regulations, including the tax regimes. So that has to be paid. Authorities are quite, bureaucracy is something that is there. We cannot say it's not there, but authorities and the government services, the online portals, for example, are becoming more and more efficient and popular. And even in recent studies in the last weeks, people have, said in surveys that they are happy with the government services, including online portals. So yes, that is what I would say from my side.
Yeah, I will add something, and it is interesting because you mentioned the roads, and I would say even like before, you mentioned also the island mentality. My suggestion and my advice also to everyone who wants to relocate to Malta is consider that it is an island. And that is something that you also have to be prepared, because being an island, for traveling to any other countries, you have to take the plane. And during COVID, when we closed the airport, people were also isolated. So I would say safely isolated, because the fact that we were isolated is also made to be able to trace the contacts like easily. But at the same time, many people weren't able to travel and see their families or their friends. So this is something, it is an island. And yeah, as you mentioned, there is also something about the island mentality. But on the other side, I would say the other advice is really a dynamic place. And I would say really dynamic also compared to many other European countries. So the more you are proactive in making contact with the locals, understand the local culture, and being able to tap into the opportunities is really, I would say, one of the best markets in Europe to start a business.
So definitely, my most usual clients are those who are relocating themselves and their families and their business as well. So the top queries would be how to register myself as a resident in Malta once they are here. So at the moment, for example, we are having lots of clients who are UK nationals, and they are finalizing their registrations in Malta under the Brexit withdrawal agreement, which is giving British nationals 10 years of residency. So that is that. When it comes to non-EU nationals, they would need to either, work in Malta, so register with an employer, or else have a family member who is already in Malta and has residency, or else one could choose to, let's say, invest, for example. There are the investment residence options, and also, if one would be interested, also the programs which lead to citizenship. So that is there. When it comes to business, they would definitely ask how am I going to register the company in Malta, or how am I going to register the subsidiary of my company elsewhere in Malta. So there, naturally, I highlight the way what we would need from them, and the registration process with the Malta Business Registry, which is quite fast. It usually takes maximum a week to open a company in Malta. So, and the fees are very, very competitive compared to other EU countries. And also how they register themselves, this is the third one, how they register themselves for income purposes. So how they register, how they get their tax residencies, the social security number, and how they get, the tax, the company, their company tax and VAT numbers. So that I would also be able to assist them in that.
Good. My expat clients, I think one of the most important, let's say, query and important for them to know is about the language. Because the official languages in Malta are English and Maltese. So that's true that all the people, they are able to speak English and a good English, but Maltese is also the official language and is part of the Maltese identity. And then for the Italians, most of the Italian, they expect the Maltese to speak Italian, because the Maltese, they have the Italian television, but that is not the official language of the island. So even if they are nice to you and they try to speak your language, being like Italian or French or any other language, because maybe they knew that language, the official languages are English and Maltese. So all the official documents will be in English and Maltese, and so will be like the system. So this is something you have to know, and use professionals if you need any kind of official translation, maybe for your documents and support. The second one is about the food. And I would say Malta culturally is an interesting mix, and so is food between like Mediterranean country and also with a British imprinting, so something from UK. But then the foreign communities in Malta are increasing, and so you can easily find also products from other countries in the world. There is a Nepalese community, there is a Nepalese like shop, there are all an area where there are like products from like Bulgaria or Serbia or like the Eastern Europe. So maybe before it was not like this, but now it's easy really to find like food from all over the world, and then like Japanese restaurants and Thai restaurants and so on. And the third one is about the work style. And I think that is really interesting, because, and I had clients had a cultural shock because they were expecting a different work style. And again, I think the key is that Malta is really an interesting mix between a Mediterranean country with a British heritage. So it's not like any other Mediterranean country. If there is something similar in the Mediterranean country, if there is something coming from the Anglo-Saxon world. And so everything I would say is faster, people go straight to the point, the meetings are more effective than in other countries, and so they're more concrete and practical, I would say, than other Mediterranean countries, but still they are Mediterranean. So this is why it's really important to be prepared and don't have assumption or prejudice, and come and discover and be prepared to discover the country.
When it comes to time frames, one would say that practically to incorporate a company, it takes a few days, maximum one working week. Then obviously it's not only the company in itself, it would also take another, let's say, week for registration of the tax and VAT, okay, value-added tax. And we also calculate that you would take between 1 or 2 months in practice to open a corporate bank account. So those are the practical timeframes one would look at. As for share capital, the share capital in Malta, the minimum is 1,200 euros, and 20% would need to be paid up. So in practice, to start a business, the share capital that needs to be invested there and then is 240 euros.
I would say one cultural suggestion also for doing business in Malta is interact and involve the locals. It's also, if you can, and if you are open a business, it's always good to have like contact with the locals and maybe involve also local partners or be part of the local scene. So there are a lot of organizations like employers or association or chamber of commerce, and it's good to be part of that or go to this kind of event because it's a small island and reputation is also important because the place is small, and so it's easy to the reputation is affected if you don't do the right things, and being a foreigner there is a risk that you don't do the right things even because you don't know or even because you're not prepared to like the country and the culture and the rules. So it's really good to be in contact with the local, connect with the locals, and if you can also involve them in your business.
And even if I could add something to you, there are also, lots of business communities which you can easily be part of, like the Malta Chamber of Commerce, the Malta Chamber of SMEs, which are a good way for networking and increasing your business pool.
Exactly.
One of the most, let's say, important things is that Malta is in the EU and is a Eurozone country. As you mentioned, it is an English speaking, and it has a geostrategic location which is in the middle, in the center of the Mediterranean, so between North Africa and European mainland. So that makes it easy to travel as well, to the most important business hubs. Let's say Malta is a small country, so when it comes to connectivity, to go to the airport, let's say from everywhere, takes you, let's say, maximum 30 to 45 minutes from everywhere, and also to the free port for those who are, an import-export. Human resources is something which, in my opinion, is quite strong in Malta. So there are lots of capable individuals who are multilingual, especially in the services industry. And also the investment support measures which the government even gives when it comes to, for example, space allocation or fiscal benefits or access to finance, for instance. So those, as a summary, makes it, these factors make Malta a very popular and attractive jurisdiction.
I agree, and to add something on the cultural side, one is for sure the language that you mentioned. So it is in the EU and it is English speaking. Also, studies have shown that the quality of life is something that made Malta attractive because there are like 300 days of like sunny day per year, and this also has an effect on like the emotions and the well-being of the individuals. It is small, and so it is an easy place to live. Then we know that there is like the traffic, so there are still some issues also in Malta, but compared to other like big cities or big country, it is an easy place to live when there is an easy going lifestyle. And so this also help especially families also that are relocating here, because it is easier for them and is safe. That is also something extremely important nowadays compared to other European countries and cities. The safety in Malta is really high, and you can feel it like walking in the street day and night.
As I said, it's and as you rightly said, managing expectations and planning ahead. People are really nice. You know, the government systems, the authorities are helpful. There are lots of service providers who are, you know, capable enough to take care of, you know, your needs. So I would believe that one should be prepared to take this help, you know, from them, because it will in the, you know, in the end serve beneficial. So that is from my side.
I would say if you are an individual or a company, you should have clear your why. So why you're moving, why you're relocating, why you want to start a business in Malta, because the more your why is strong, the more then you can like face and do everything step by steps. So it can be for the quality of life, it can be to be like close to your family, or to any other reason like financial, economic reason. The second one is to face your fears, or let's say identify your challenges in advance. And so who also can support to face these fears and these challenges. So it can be a cultural support, so a coaching and cultural support, but then can be also like accountancy, lawyers like Gianella, all the work that they do to help you to prepare before moving. And the third one, this is more cultural, but be aware of the cultural differences that I mentioned before. Even if there is a honeymoon, then there would be frustration, and so cultural shock. Maybe there's no as you expected, maybe there'll be something about, again, the language or the culture. And so the more you are prepared in advance, the more you are aware, you can then identify what is going on and be ready to adjust and confirm that this is like the place where you want to stay, and adjust to stay and take all the best since day one.